Well, now here with me are actually three smart ways and also considered risk-free on how you can be able to invest in this year 2024. You know what? People are of different personalities. There are some people who actually fear taking risks. There are some people who are very good at taking risks, and there are people who are actually considered moderate. Actually, they don't fall in either making risk or taking risk or not taking risk. They are actually in between there. And today I'm going to teach you, or on this video, I'm going to teach you exactly what are the best ways how you can be able to invest. And guess what? Your investment portfolio will be the best out there. All right, let's get into the business. But hey, by the way, I was checking on my statistics on this YouTube and I realized there's some of the wonderful individuals who are watching my videos without subscribing. And I don't know why, I just have a feeling that might be you. Yeah, you, exactly. Now, this is what you do it, by the way. I know you've been hearing on me talking about subscribing. What's the importance? The importance of subscribing to a channel, it means it's like you telling me, thank you, Joseph. I love what you're doing. All right. And how you subscribe, by the way, it's just by, down below there is a small button written subscribe. It is in black. Hit that magical button. By the way, it disappears. Okay. And also liking this video so that this video can actually be suggested to majority of the people. All right. Let's get into the business. Now, guess what? Now, in life, we have to take risks. I always tell you guys, you have to have two characteristics for you to be an entrepreneur. And those two characteristics is, one, you have to be a what? A risk taker. You have to be a risk taker, all right? If you must be in entrepreneur or whatever field, you have to be a risk taker. Number two, you have to be a what? Crazy. Hey, I know you're like, what? Crazy. Crazy, I don't mean like being insane. What I mean by being crazy is like you're this individual who is actually doing things differently and you're seeing things differently compared to the larger population, all right? So those two characters, you must have them, all right? Now, let's get into the business. Now, how do you invest in a smart way and also considered a risk-free, all right? Now, this is how you do it, okay? In a portfolio of investment, there's something called a portfolio of what? Of an investment, okay? This portfolio of an investment should be made of concoction of different areas as far as the risk is concerned. We usually have to say you have to invest in something that is called a what? A less risky area, all right? Less risky area. These are things that you find that, hey, guess what? The risk is close to zero. It's like close to non-existence. And these are some of the best areas where you can invest when you consider the risk areas. And by the way, I'll share the percentage of the wealth that you're supposed to channel towards these areas that we consider them the less risk area. Such kind of an investment is something like bonds, all right? You can also do bills, okay? But by the way, this is actually lending government your money. These are areas we consider them the less risky. And the other one, or the other area where you can be able to invest on where it's less risky, is actually MMF or money market fund. I don't want to talk about money market fund. I know I've been talking about this like a million times. The other area is actually things to do with index fund, all right? Index funds. Other areas you can actually put your money into this are things like fixed deposit or fixed investment, FDS. Let me just call them FDS. The fixed deposit investments, fixed deposit areas, all those kind of things. So those are just but four of them. There are a variety of them. Okay, so those are the areas we say, hey, they are what? They are less risky areas. And these areas where we consider them, real estate. Wow, that's actually should have actually be the point number one here. Real estate, okay? Real estate in the sense like, hey, you want to build some rental houses, the commercial houses, you want to buy some property in terms of the lands and what have you. Those are things that we consider them the less risky areas. And this should actually take you a whooping 60% of your total investment portfolio. I repeat, 60% of whatever you own should actually be channeled toward these areas where it is less risky, okay? This is area whereby you almost assured that, hey, everything will be, for example, if you buy a piece of property, unless maybe you bought something that is non-existent, unless maybe, all those kind of things. But anyway, if your due diligence was followed and you buy yourself a piece of land, not gonna be there like forever, all right? You're close to saying, hey, guess what? All throughout my lifetime, this is an area where I did put my money and actually seeing it. Whether it's actually generating cash flow or it is not, it's an investment, it's a property that is out there and you can be able to do. Now, investing in these areas over 60% of your property, now that is an amazing area that you can actually put your money and everything is good. Okay, now let's go to the next point or the next category. The next category, we say it's what we call the moderate risk, or risk. In terms of the risk, we say it is moderate, okay? Moderate Moderate in the sense that, hey, guess what? Yeah, it has its own senses of, it has its own some traces of risk inside of it, but it's actually moderate. You can actually take it, an average individual can actually take it out there, and you can be able to do it out there. The moderate areas where you can actually put your money here, for example, you can do some circles, okay, in these areas you can be able to put some money into the circles. You can actually get into things that are a little bit less risky. Some of the businesses actually falls under this category. Oh, by the way, did you know that some of the businesses are considered risky, others are considered less risky? For example, let's take a simple example here. For example, if someone starts like a hardware store where you are selling let's say construction materials, you're selling things to do with like cement, you're selling maybe sands, you're selling stones, maybe you're selling maybe you're selling some metals or ions or whatever, those kind of hardware sort of a thing. That thing, even if you stay there for like years, okay, it can't go bad. Okay, it's a dead stock, yes, which you can actually liquidate and get your money back. For example, compare that individual with someone who is selling things to do with like vegetables, okay, or fruits. You can just imagine some few days the guy who is selling the vegetables and fruits, you are going bad because, hey, they are called perishable goods. But this one can actually stay for a longer period without them going bad. Yeah, that's the ultimate thing, is not selling the stock in future. The ultimate thing is to actually sell them and bring the others back so that at least you can continue the cycle of selling. Okay. Now, but this one that's actually dealing with the vegetables, you ought to say time is not on your side. You really have to actually consider time, because even if you do the refrigeration and whatever, there is always that lifespan of that specific thing. Well, I know you're about to argue also the metal has it, or ions had its own lifespan, but obviously you can't compare the two items. So some of the businesses actually are considered moderate, others are considered risky, and all those kind of areas. Okay, so these moderate areas where you can actually put your money, an example is that circles, an example is such businesses that I've explained to you. Others are not so the same. Okay, so this is what we consider the moderate, and this is where most of the people actually tend to think about. But as you grow old, and by the way, this is quite an amazing thing that you're supposed to understand. You see, when you're young, you're supposed to, before I share that information, let me just finish up so that I explain to you. Now, there is the last part which we consider risky investment. Risky investment, or let's just call them the risky areas. These risky areas are considered like common businesses, common businesses, something of sort, maybe importation, nini, all those kind of things. You can just play around with this cryptocurrency, crypto, all these areas that you can actually invest are considered risky. Well, and there is something that you're supposed to understand. When it comes to less risky areas, we usually say they have what we call the low returns. Unless you've actually invested a lot of money in these areas, then you can actually be able to realize quite a huge cash flow. When you have actually yourself a huge like portfolio of real estate, you can actually be able to get in more. But when you have less money, maybe you've put some few coins, maybe let's say like 100,000 or 200 or even 300 into a money market fund, you won't even realize like a huge amount of returns maybe per month or per day. But once you actually go ahead and build that portfolio and realize that you have a couple of millions maybe in bonds and bills, index funds and what have you, or real estate, then you're able to realize a lot of money that is coming in out there. So on this, where we say it's less risky, we say it has low returns. Okay, now when we usually put money into where we have the risky areas, this is where there is a high returns, as much as there is high also chances of your business actually collapsing, or maybe some of the investment vanishing, or maybe becomes sort of non-existence or something of sort. All right, for example, I remember there was a time back in our country, this idea of coming up or rearing some birds were called, I don't know, quails or something of sort. I don't know, they were eggs. Their eggs were actually fetching a good price, and everybody was actually getting into the business because it is making money. And then with no time, the idea vanished. The eggs were no longer at that pricey commodity that you can actually sell out there, maybe probably because of the rule of supply and demand. I don't know, whatever the case it was. Okay, the idea just disappeared. So that's quite a risk areas for those guys who got themselves into it. Actually did fetch a lot of money. For example, another thing, those guys who actually during the COVID-19, they were importing the masks and this health medical related equipment. There are some people whom I know, they were are not even in the medical field, then they got themselves into this. It's a quite a risk areas because we didn't know exactly when this COVID thing will end or maybe subside or something of sort. But these guys actually put their millions into the investment. It's a risk affair, but can actually earn some things to do with money. All right, now the point is this: the moderate one, this one actually sits on fence, doesn't fall in either side. It's a thing that, hey, can work, can't work, can work, and it's just somewhere. All right, now the point is this: when you actually have a portfolio of this, when I say 60% should be directed to this area, and when I say maybe now when it comes to the percentage to be allocated in this area, depends on who you ask. Somebody will say, hey, I would rather put my sort of 30% here, 30% here, and maybe 10% here. Others will say vice versa, I'll put my 30% here and 10% here. All right, so it all depends on your appetite in terms of the risk, and you can actually tell yourself, you can actually identify yourself which kind of an individual you are. If you're this kind of an individual who you fear buying something in the name of selling, you have a lot of reservations, you're paranoid, probably you have to go with these kind of percentages. Okay, but there is one thing that I would love to put across to you here. Let's say you are young and trying to build yourself up. There is no way you can actually put this money into this and then expect a humongous growth. No, I always say, as you grow old, you tend to actually transform the risk affairs that you're having in terms of making money towards stable, more income. And that's why you find like these older people tend to think about real estate, bonds and the bills and all those kind of area that they don't have a lot of moving parts. But when you are young, I always tell people, try as much as you can, try different things, obviously with a calculated moves. Don't just do anything because I said you have to do anything. There is a difference between storing money and growing money. So when you're focusing towards these less risk areas, you're more of storing the money. But when you're young, you're trying to multiply the cash that you're having. That is called growing money. So it's always good to understand which type you are, and again, number two, the age that you are in, because it's also a factor to consider. For example, say you are 55, 60 or something of sort, you're about to go to a retire, meaning you'll be less active, close to no active, meaning you probably the active income from your area will be like go down. So it's good to make sure that at least as you grow, or as move towards growing old where you become less productive, it's always good to make sure that you channel your money towards areas where I can actually work in your absence and be able to feed you and pay your bills and sustain your life. Okay, but when you are young, when you can actually survive on active income, it's also good to try some, put some hands in, in a calculated way, try different things. By the time now you're hitting 40 and above, you already know, hey, that works, that doesn't work for me, this is me, this is not me, and all those kind of things. So if you can have a concoction of these three things, the risk areas, the moderate, and the less risk areas, the moderate and the risk areas, then have that combination that can really act and work for you very well. All right, guess what, guys, that marks the end of my video. And if you learned something out of this video, this is what I want you to do. Just like the video and also comment down below on the comment section, say thank you, or maybe say tell me more if you'd like me to make such videos of the same kind. For now, it's a goodbye, but don't forget, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, my number is always on the description of this specific video, or my email is as well out there. You can shoot me a comment. Let's go to the next topic. Now, for now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.